There's something haunting about the idea of a treasure that shouldn't be found, a fortune so immense, so steeped in mystery, that it carries a warning etched into history itself. Picture this: beneath the dust of centuries, hidden in the shadows of crumbling fortresses and forgotten crypts, lies the legendary cursed treasure of the Knights Templar. These warrior monks, once the most powerful order of the medieval world, amassed riches beyond imagination, only to vanish overnight, leaving behind whispers of a curse so terrifying it's said to doom anyone who dares seek their gold. Stories speak of men driven mad, of expeditions swallowed by the earth, and of an ancient secret so dangerous the Templars would rather die than let it fall into the wrong hands. But what if their treasure wasn't just gold and jewels? What if the real prize was something far more sinister? Legends of cursed treasure aren't just campfire tales. They're woven into the fabric of history, from the deserts of the Holy Land to the misty forests of Europe. The Knights Templar, with their crimson crosses and sworn oaths of secrecy, became the keepers of something unimaginable. Some say it was the lost riches of Solomon's temple, plundered during the Crusades. Others believe it was sacred relics, objects of such divine power they could topple kingdoms. But the darkest rumors whisper of a knowledge so forbidden, the Church itself ordered it erased from existence. And when the Templars were betrayed, hunted down by a king who coveted their wealth, they didn't just hide their treasure, they protected it with a curse. So why, after 700 years, does the mystery still beckon? Perhaps because the greatest treasures aren't just about wealth, they're about the truths buried beneath the legends. The Templars' legacy is a puzzle of blood, faith, and betrayal, and their cursed fortune is the missing piece. Today, we're stepping into their world, following the clues they left behind, and uncovering the chilling reality behind the myths. This isn't just a story about gold, it's a journey into the heart of one of history's most dangerous secrets, and by the end, you'll understand why some treasures are better left lost. In the year 1119, 9 knights gathered in Jerusalem with a single purpose: to protect Christian pilgrims journeying through the treacherous roads of the Holy Land. These men weren't just warriors, they were monks, bound by vows of poverty, obedience, and chastity. Yet from this humble beginning, they would become the most feared and respected military order of the Middle Ages, the Knights Templar. Their rise was as swift as it was improbable. Within decades, they transformed from a small band of devout fighters into a financial and political powerhouse, wielding influence that rivaled kings. Their secret, the Crusades. As European kingdoms poured money and men into reclaiming Jerusalem, the Templars positioned themselves as the guardians of the faithful. They built fortresses along pilgrimage routes, offering safe passage to travelers while securing strategic strongholds. But their true brilliance lay in something unexpected: banking. Pilgrims needed a way to carry wealth safely, so the Templars created an early system of letters of credit. A traveler could deposit gold in Paris and withdraw it in Jerusalem, a revolutionary idea that made them the first international bankers. Soon, kings and nobles entrusted their fortunes to the order, turning the Templars into the medieval equivalent of a global financial empire. Yet wealth wasn't their only source of power. The Church granted them unparalleled privileges: exemption from taxes, answerable only to the Pope, and the right to cross any border freely. Their emblem, the red cross on white, became a symbol of both divine mission and fearsome reputation. Stories spread of their discipline in battle, how they would rather die than retreat, but with such influence came suspicion. Whispers followed them of secret rituals, hidden knowledge, and treasures beyond imagining. By the 13th century, they weren't just knights, they were a shadow empire, one that made even monarchs uneasy, and that's when the real trouble began. The Templars didn't just accumulate wealth, they built an empire of gold and influence that stretched across continents. At their peak, they owned vast estates from England to the Middle East, managing thousands of farms, vineyards, and even entire towns. These lands weren't just status symbols, they were economic engines. The order perfected a system where crops, wool, and wine flowed from their properties into lucrative trade networks, funneling endless riches into their coffers. But their most brilliant innovation wasn't in soil, it was in ledgers. The Templars essentially invented modern banking. Pilgrims could deposit funds at one Templar preceptory and withdraw them at another using coded documents, a system so secure that even kings trusted it. Their vaults became the safest places in Europe, storing everything from royal jewels to the debts of nations. Then came the whispers, the rumors that their true treasure wasn't gold at all. During their time in Jerusalem, the Templars excavated beneath Solomon's temple, and some believe they uncovered relics of unimaginable power. The Ark of the Covenant, said to contain the very words of God, or perhaps the Holy Grail, the cup of Christ himself. These weren't just sacred objects, they were weapons of divine authority capable of uniting or destroying kingdoms. The Templars guarded these secrets fiercely, and when their order fell, the treasures vanished. But here's the twist, their wealth was never just about money, it was about control. By holding the keys to both earthly riches and heavenly mysteries, the Templars didn't just serve power, they wielded it. And that made them dangerous. The morning of Friday, October 13th, 1307, dawned with a silence that hid treachery. Across France, under the cold orders of King Philip IV, soldiers moved like shadows. By sunrise, thousands of Knights Templar, men who had once stood as Europe's most revered defenders, were dragged from their beds in chains. The charges: heresy, blasphemy, and unspeakable rituals whispered in the dark, but the truth was far simpler: greed. Philip, drowning in debt to the Templars, saw their destruction as the only way out. Their wealth could fill his coffers, their lands could expand his power, and their influence, once his greatest ally, now stood in his way. The arrests were just the beginning. Torture chambers across the kingdom hummed with activity as Templars were subjected to horrors meant to break both body and spirit. Confessions were ripped from them, admissions of spitting on the cross, of worshipping demonic idols, of secret midnight rites. Historians still debate how many of these confessions were real and how many were the desperate cries of broken men. But one thing is certain, the Templars' downfall was as brutal as it was calculated. The Pope, once their protector, bowed to Philip's pressure, and in 1312 the order was officially dissolved, its members scattered, executed, or imprisoned. Yet even in their darkest hour, the Templars left mysteries unsolved. Their Grand Master, Jacques de Molay, was burned at the stake, but not before issuing a chilling prophecy. It said he cursed both King Philip and Pope Clement, declaring they would meet him before God within a year. Whether by coincidence or fate, both men were dead within months. And as for the Templars' legendary treasure, not a single coin was found in the raids. It had vanished along with the secrets they died protecting. Some say it was spirited away in the dead of night, hidden in remote strongholds, or smuggled across the sea. Others believe the real treasure was never gold at all, but knowledge so dangerous, the Templars chose fire and ruin over letting it fall into the wrong hands. This wasn't just the end of an order, it was the birth of a legend, one that still haunts us today. The Templars' fate became a warning: power draws enemies and secrets have a price. But the greatest question remains unanswered. If their treasure was truly cursed, then perhaps the real disaster wasn't their downfall, but what might happen if it's ever found. The flames climbed higher as the crowd gathered in hushed silence, watching the last Grand Master of the Knights Templar stand unbowed in the face of his execution. Jacques de Molay, once one of the most powerful men in Christendom, now stood chained to a wooden stake on an island in the Seine, the smoke stinging his eyes. But even as the fire licked at his robes, his voice cut through the chaos, clear, defiant, and laced with fury. He declared his innocence one final time, and then, with his dying breath, he uttered a curse that would echo through history. He summoned King Philip IV and Pope Clement V to meet him before the judgment of God within a year. For centuries, people have debated whether de Molay's words were a desperate last act or something more. But what happened next sent shivers down the spines of even the most skeptical chroniclers. Pope Clement, who had reluctantly sanctioned the destruction of the Templars, died just 1 month later, officially from dysentery, though whispers spoke of something darker. Then, before the year was out, King Philip followed him to the grave, the once mighty monarch who had orchestrated the Templars' downfall to erase his debts, succumbed to a sudden stroke while hunting. Coincidence, perhaps, but in an age where curses were taken as seriously as laws, the timing felt like divine retribution. The legend of de Molay's curse didn't end there. Some say his dying words carried the same weight as the Templars' lost treasures sealed in blood, impossible to ignore. Even today, historians puzzle over the strange symmetry of those deaths. Was it fate, divine justice, or did the Grand Master, in his final moments, tap into something older and more dangerous than anyone understood? What we know for certain is this: the Templar's story didn't end with fire and ashes. It became something far more enduring, a warning etched in flame, a mystery wrapped in curses, and a legacy that refuses to die. On the night the Templars were arrested across France, something extraordinary happened, or rather, didn't happen. Despite King Philip's meticulous plans, his men found vaults eerily empty, strongholds stripped bare. The treasure was gone. Historians have long wondered, how does an empire's worth of gold, relics, and secrets vanish overnight? The answer might lie in the whispers of a fleet ghost ships slipping into the fog before the king's soldiers could seize them. Rumors persist that in their final days, the Templars loaded their most precious cargo onto ships anchored off the coast of La Rochelle. Some say these vessels carried not just gold but sacred texts, cryptic maps, even artifacts from Solomon's temple. Then, like shadows on the water, they vanished. Where did they go? One theory points north to Scotland, where the exiled Templars supposedly found refuge with clans loyal to their cause. The Rosslyn Chapel, its stonework crawling with Templar symbolism, has fueled speculation for centuries. Hidden chambers beneath its floors, carvings of maize and aloe plants unknown in medieval Europe, hint at secrets far older and stranger than mere treasure. But another, even bolder theory suggests the Templars crossed the Atlantic long before Columbus. The Newport Tower in Rhode Island, a mysterious stone structure with uncanny resemblance to Templar architecture, stands as a silent witness. Carbon dating places it centuries before European colonization, and its design mirrors round churches built by the order across Europe. Then there's Oak Island, where generations of treasure hunters have chased legends of a bottomless pit guarded by intricate booby traps, flood tunnels, stone markers, and cryptic inscriptions eerily similar to Templar engineering. Could these scattered clues form a trail? The Templars were master navigators, privy to maps and knowledge lost to most of Europe. If anyone could have crossed the ocean prematurely, it was them. But here's the unsettling part. Every major excavation on Oak Island has ended in disaster. Collapsed shafts, flooded tunnels, even deaths. Coincidence or something darker? The Templars didn't just hide their treasure, they protected it. And if legends are to be believed, they were willing to curse anyone who dared disturb it. So the question isn't just where the treasure went, it's whether finding it would be a discovery or a doom. The fleet's fate remains one of history's greatest riddles, a puzzle woven from stone, water, and whispers. And perhaps that's exactly how the Templars intended it. Stone whispers, that's what the Templars left behind. Not just gold or relics, but a language carved into the very bones of Europe. Take Rosslyn Chapel, that enigmatic masterpiece in Scotland. Every inch of its walls bristles with symbolism: stars, flowers, even corncobs, a plant unknown in medieval Europe. Some say these carvings are a map leading to the Templars' lost treasure. Others believe they're a coded message, a sacred geometry hiding secrets too dangerous to speak aloud. The chapel's apprentice pillar alone is a riddle wrapped in legend. According to lore, the master mason left to study the original pillar's design, only to return and find his apprentice had completed it flawlessly, and in a fit of jealousy, he killed the young man on the spot. But look closer. The pillar's intricate vines spiral in a way that defies medieval craftsmanship, almost as if they hold a mathematical cipher. Then there are the graves. Across Europe, Templar tombstones bear strange marking swords pointing downward, skulls with crossed bones, cryptic runes that don't match any known language. In Portugal's Toma Castle, a cemetery holds knights buried at odd angles, their stones etched with symbols that mirror constellations. Were these just funeral rites, or could they be coordinates? The most chilling example lies in France's Monson's Chapel, where frescoes depict bizarre hybrid creatures and a green-skinned man holding a severed head, images that echo esoteric texts banned by the church. But nothing fueled modern obsession like the Priory of Sion documents, a 20th-century hoax that twisted Templar myth into conspiracy gold. In the 1950s, a Frenchman named Pierre Plantard forged parchments claiming the Templars had secretly guarded the bloodline of Christ, a tale that inspired books like the Da Vinci Code. While debunked, the legend stuck because it tapped into something real. The Templars did deal in secrets. Their initiation rites involved cryptic passwords, their letters were written in ciphers, and their buildings aligned with celestial events. So were they just devout men hiding knowledge from a hostile world, or was there something darker at play? Their symbols endure because they're not just marks, they're a challenge. A dare to look closer, to question, to risk uncovering what the Templars themselves died protecting. And that's the true curse. The deeper you dig, the more the lines between history and myth begin to blur. The tiny village of Rennes-le-Château, nestled in the rugged foothills of the French Pyrenees, should have been forgotten by history. But in the late 19th century, a penniless parish priest named Bérenger Saunière stumbled upon something that would turn this sleepy hamlet into ground zero for treasure hunters, conspiracy theorists, and even Hollywood screenwriters. The story begins with Saunière's sudden transformation, a man who arrived in the village with tattered robes and empty pockets, only to start spending money like a king. He rebuilt the local church with bizarre, occult-themed decorations, funded lavish parties, and reportedly turned down an offer to become a bishop, an unthinkable act for a low-ranking clergyman. Where did his fortune come from? The official explanation that wealthy patrons funded his projects did little to silence the rumors, because Rennes-le-Château wasn't just any village. It stood on land once fiercely guarded by the Knights Templar. When Saunière renovated his church, workers allegedly found sealed jars beneath the altar. Some say they contained gold coins, others whisper it was ancient parchments written in coded language. The priest spent nights obsessively studying these documents, even traveling to Paris to consult with experts in symbolism. Then came the strangest twist. Saunière began modifying the church's layout in ways that defied explanation. He installed a statue of a demon greeting visitors at the entrance, carved peculiar Latin inscriptions like, "This place is terrible," above the door, and designed the entire building as a geometric cipher. The altar rested on Visigothic pillars, a civilization with ties to the Templars, and the stained glass windows depicted scenes that didn't match any known biblical stories. But the real mystery lies beneath the church itself. Saunière reportedly excavated a hidden crypt where locals claim he found not just treasure but skeletons, one of which wore a crown. This fueled theories that Rennes-le-Château held the remains of a Merovingian king, descendants of Christ's supposed bloodline, a belief later popularized by the Da Vinci Code. The Templars, protectors of this secret, might have buried evidence here, and Saunière, he became a man haunted by his discovery. In his final years, he refused last rites, died without confession, and left behind a diary filled with cryptic symbols. His housekeeper, Marie Denarnaud, promised to reveal a secret that would make him rich beyond imagination, but she took it to her grave. Today, the village is a pilgrimage site for those chasing shadows. Some search for gold, others for proof of a bloodline that could shake Christianity to its core. But perhaps the real treasure isn't hidden in the earth, it's the power of the story itself. Because whether the legends are fact or fiction, they've done what all great secrets do. They've made us wonder what else might be waiting just out of sight. Oak Island's money pit isn't just a hole in the ground, it's a riddle wrapped in engineering so precise, so deliberate. It's as if the Templars themselves designed it. For over 200 years, treasure hunters have dug, drilled, and drained this unassuming patch of Nova Scotia, only to be thwarted by flood tunnels, cryptic stone markers, and a curse that seems to demand human sacrifice. The story begins in 1795, when a teenager named Daniel Maginnis noticed a strange depression in the earth with an old ship's pulley hanging from a nearby oak tree. Beneath the soil, he and his friends found layers of meticulously placed logs every 10 feet, suggesting this wasn't just a natural sinkhole, it was a vault. But the deeper they dug, the stranger it got. At 90 feet, they hit a slab of stone inscribed with symbols later claimed to read, 40 feet below, 2 million pounds lie buried. Then disaster, the pit flooded overnight as if the sea itself had rushed in to guard its secret. Modern excavations revealed why, an ingenious system of tunnels connecting the pit to the ocean, designed to drown anyone who breached the lower chambers. Over the centuries, teams have found bizarre clues: a wrought iron hand, a child's gold chain, even a scrap of parchment with the letters VI in ink. But the most compelling evidence tying this place to the Templars lies in the construction itself. The triangular swamp on Oak Island mirrors the layout of Templar strongholds in France, and the flood tunnels resemble the Order's hydraulic engineering in Portugal. Then there's the Nolan Cross, a formation of boulders that aligns with constellations sacred to the Templars. Some believe the money pit was never meant to hold gold, but something far more dangerous. In 1965, a camera lowered into a borehole captured blurred images of what might be chests and even human remains. But before anyone could retrieve them, the shaft collapsed. 6 men have died chasing Oak Island's secret, and fortunes have been spent trying to crack its code. Yet the island keeps its silence. Maybe that's the real lesson here. Some treasures aren't just buried, they're guarded. By curses, by traps, or by something even the Templars feared enough to hide at the ends of the earth. The walls of Acre, burned as the last Christian stronghold in the Holy Land, crumbled under the onslaught of the Mamluks. It was the year 1291, and the Knights Templar, once the unshakable guardians of Jerusalem, now fought a desperate rear-guard action, buying time for civilians to flee to the harbor. But amid the chaos, something extraordinary happened. Witnesses later claimed the Templars loaded their galleys not just with refugees, but with mysterious chests hauled from the depths of their fortress. One chronicler wrote of knights weeping as they sealed the cargo, while another spoke of a priest chanting prayers in a language no one recognized. As the ship slipped through the smoke-choked night, few realized they carried more than survivors. They carried a curse. Within weeks, strange tales emerged from ports across the Mediterranean. In Cyprus, a group of sailors tasked with unloading Templar cargo reportedly fell into madness, screaming about faces in the gold before throwing themselves into the sea. A Venetian merchant's logbook from 1293 describes a crew member who stole a single coin from a Templar chest, only to die 3 days later, his skin blackened as if burned from within. The stories share eerie similarities. Those who touched the treasure suffered grotesque fates, visions of burning angels, blood streaming from their eyes, or sudden, unexplained drownings in calm waters. Historians dismiss these accounts as superstition, but the Templars themselves seem to believe in the danger. Their own records from Cyprus mention a sealed vault where that which was taken from Acre was stored under armed guard, with strict orders that no man should open it without the Grand Master's presence. Some speculate the treasure wasn't just gold, but sacred objects tainted by their origins. During the siege, the Templars had reportedly excavated beneath the ruins of Solomon's temple, bringing relics back to Acre. Could they have awakened something older than Christianity itself? The darkest theory comes from an Arabic manuscript found in Cairo, describing Mamluk soldiers who looted the Templar treasury after Acre's fall. According to the text, they found not just jewels but a box of black iron, silent yet singing. The men who opened it were dead within a month, their bodies found with mouths full of salt water, though they died miles from the sea. Whether the Templars cursed their treasure or merely guarded something already cursed remains a mystery, but one truth endures: where that hoard went, death followed. And 7 centuries later, we still don't know where or what it really was. Among the strangest artifacts tied to the Templars is the so-called Baphomet idol, a relic that may have never existed, yet left a trail of terror across history. During the trials, knights under torture confessed to worshipping a mysterious head with glowing eyes, sometimes described as bearded, other times as a gilded skull. Modern scholars dismiss these accounts as coerced fabrications, but something unsettling lingers. In 1712, a German alchemist claimed to have discovered the actual Baphomet in a Templar ruin near Stuttgart. His journal describes the artifact as a silver face that wept black tears when touched. Within weeks, his entire household died screaming of nightmares about the head that speaks. The relic vanished, but similar stories emerge every century. A London antiquarian in 1894 who went mad after purchasing a medieval bust at auction. A French archaeologist in 1937 who photographed a grotesque stone face before his excavation team suffocated in a cave-in. Whether myth or reality, the pattern is clear. Where Baphomet is said to appear, death follows. Then there's the Shroud of Turin, a linen cloth bearing the ghostly image of a crucified man, revered by some as Christ's burial shroud. Few realize its earliest verified history traces back to Templar custody. In 1357, a French knight displayed it as the Shroud of Edessa, claiming his grandfather, a Templar, had smuggled it from Constantinople before the sack of 1204. Scientists debate its authenticity, but its connection to the order is undeniable. Infrared scans reveal faint Templar crosses woven into the fabric's edges, and the shroud's carbon dating anomalies match precisely with the years the order supposedly hid it. More chilling are the accounts of those who guarded it. A nun who mended the shroud in the 1500s wrote of visions so vivid she needed exorcism. A 19th-century photographer developing the first images of the cloth allegedly saw faces emerge in the developer Trey's faces he swore belonged to dead Templars. Even today, conservators report sudden equipment failures when handling it, as if the shroud resists scrutiny. But the most disturbing relic might be the one we can't see. The Chinon parchment, discovered in the Vatican archives in 2001, describes an object so dangerous the Templars called it the breath of God. According to the document, it was a small silver cylinder recovered from beneath Jerusalem's Temple Mount, emitting a sound like 1,000 whispers when shaken. The parchment claims 3 Templar priests who studied it died within days, their tongues blackened as if burned. When King Philip's men raided Paris Temple, they reportedly found an empty iron box lined with lead, the same materials medieval alchemists used to contain radioactive substances. Was this the cylinder's resting place, and if so, where did it go? Perhaps the true curse isn't supernatural at all. These relics, real or imagined, share one trait: they drive men to obsession. Whether chasing divine proof or forbidden knowledge, the seekers often lose themselves along the way. And that may have been the Templars' greatest lesson: some doors, once opened, can never be closed. Geyser's castle stands silent under the weight of centuries, its stone walls guarding secrets far older than the kings who once walked its halls. But in 1964, this medieval fortress became the stage for a tragedy that would reignite ancient whispers about the Templars' most dangerous legacy, their cursed gold. It started with a rumor. Local legends claimed the castle's underground tunnels hid a vault where the knights had stashed their treasure before their sudden downfall. A team of excavators, led by a retired schoolteacher named Roger Lomoy, became obsessed with proving it. Lomoy had spent years studying the castle's cryptic carvings, convinced a precise measurement from the northwest tower would lead to the hoard. What happened next reads like a horror story. As the team dug deeper into the castle's foundations, they uncovered a network of chambers older than the structure itself, tunnels lined with strange symbols matching those found in Templar sites across Europe. Then, without warning, the earth roared. The tunnel collapsed, burying 2 men alive. Rescue teams arrived too late. Their bodies were found crushed under tons of rubble, their equipment twisted like pretzels by an unseen force. But the strangest detail, the collapse wasn't caused by weak supports or shifting soil. Engineers later determined the walls had held firm for 800 years until that exact moment. Survivors spoke of eerie details tools that vanished overnight, the sound of distant chanting echoing through the tunnels before the collapse, even a foreman who swore he saw a shadowy figure in a tattered cloak standing where the walls gave way. The incident sparked a frenzy. Newspapers dubbed it the Curse of Geysers, linking it to the Templars' legendary warning that their gold could only be claimed at a terrible cost. Historians pointed out the castle's dark history. It was here in the 12th century that the order allegedly conducted secret rites beneath the chapel. Even more chilling, records show that in 1308, the year after the Templars were outlawed, a group of knights was executed at Geysers for refusing to reveal the location of their treasure. Their last words were a vow that the earth itself would swallow those who sought it. Was the collapse just bad luck or something more? Skeptics dismissed the curse as folklore, but locals refused to dig deeper. The tunnels remained sealed, a warning carved not in stone but in human fear. Perhaps some treasures aren't meant to be found, or perhaps the Templars knew exactly how to protect theirs. Either way, Geysers stands as a grim reminder. History's darkest secrets often come with teeth. The sovereign military order of the Temple of Jerusalem, or SMOJ, proudly carries the mantle of the Knights Templar into the modern age. Founded in the 1960s, this international organization claims direct descent from the medieval order, with members swearing oaths to uphold chivalric ideals and protect the Templar legacy. But unlike their medieval predecessors, today's Templars aren't battling on horseback, they're battling skepticism, conspiracy theories, and if their stories are to be believed, something far more unnerving. SMOJ members range from historians to treasure hunters, all united by a shared obsession, uncovering what the original Templars left behind. Their most infamous expedition took place in the 1980s when a team of SMOJ researchers traveled to a remote chapel in Portugal's Sintra Mountains. Local legends spoke of a sealed Templar crypt beneath the church, rumored to hold the order's lost archives. Armed with ground-penetrating radar, the team detected an underground chamber, but when they attempted to excavate, their equipment malfunctioned inexplicably. Witnesses reported hearing whispers in Old French, and one researcher collapsed with a sudden fever, babbling about the keeper of the gate. The project was abandoned, but not before someone snapped a photograph of the chapel's altar. A blurred figure appears in the frame despite the room being empty. Skeptics call it a lens flare. SMOJ Inner Circle calls it a warning. Then there's the case of the Templar Vault in Scotland. In 2012, a group affiliated with SMOJ used medieval maps to locate what they believed was a hidden stronghold beneath Rosslyn Chapel. Their ground scans revealed a hollow space lined with metal, possibly the legendary Templar treasury. But when they applied for excavation permits, the paperwork mysteriously vanished from government offices. Even stranger, the team's leader received an anonymous letter written in perfect 12th century Latin, accusing him of disturbing the sleep of the guardians. The letter's ink tested positive for iron gall, a medieval recipe, and its parchment matched samples from the Templar era. Coincidence or not, the Scottish government quietly banned further exploration. But the most chilling incident comes from France, where smart researchers attempted to decode carvings in the Château de Geysers. After publishing a paper linking the symbols to the Order's lost fleet, the lead scholar suffered a bizarre accident. His home burned down, but only his research notes were destroyed. Fire investigators found no accelerant, only a single Templar cross scorched into his desk. Was it arson, a message, or something the modern world isn't equipped to explain? These groups walk a tightrope between scholarship and the supernatural. Some seek historical truth, others chase whispers of cursed gold. But one pattern emerges every time they get close: obstacles pile up. Lost permits, malfunctioning technology, unexplained illnesses. It's enough to make you wonder, are these just bad breaks, or is there something to the old Templar saying, "Let no man disturb what heaven has concealed"? The modern descendants may wear suits instead of chainmail, but the mysteries they pursue haven't lost their teeth, and sometimes it seems the past pushes back. Centuries before numbered accounts and encrypted ledgers, the Knights Templar were already perfecting the art of financial secrecy. Their system, where pilgrims could deposit gold in one country and withdraw it in another using coded parchments, was the medieval equivalent of offshore banking. But what if their legacy didn't end with their downfall? What if it simply went underground, morphing into the very institution synonymous with hidden wealth today: Swiss banks? The connection isn't as far-fetched as it sounds. Switzerland's banking secrecy laws didn't emerge in a vacuum. They trace their roots to the same traditions the Templars pioneered. Just as the Knights answered only to the Pope, Swiss banks long operated under laws that placed client confidentiality above all else, even government scrutiny. Historians have noted eerie parallels. The Templar preceptories, fortified and autonomous, mirror the vaults buried beneath alpine mountains, accessible only to those with the right credentials. And then there's the timing. When the Templars disbanded, many fleeing knights reportedly settled in regions that would later become Switzerland, bringing their financial expertise with them. The town of Château d'Aux, for instance, still hosts an annual festival celebrating its alleged Templar heritage, complete with rituals that suspiciously resemble medieval banking codes. But the most unsettling thread lies in the disappearances. In 1966, a German financier named Hans von Klemperer vanished after claiming to have uncovered records of a Templar vault beneath a Zurich bank. His notes, later found in a hotel safe, detailed a 12-digit account number linked to the Order's final deposit. Bank officials denied its existence, but within a year, 3 employees who'd accessed the archive died in separate accidents: a car crash, a fall from a window, and a bizarre electrocution by a malfunctioning office lamp. Then, in 1984, an Italian journalist investigating Swiss bank ties to medieval relics was found drowned in Lake Geneva, his briefcase filled with photos of safety deposit boxes marked with Templar crosses. Authorities ruled it suicide, despite witnesses swearing they'd seen him with 2 men in dark suits hours earlier. Theories abound. Some believe the Templars funneled their surviving wealth into Swiss institutions through shadowy intermediaries, locking it behind trusts that only mature under specific conditions, perhaps tied to astronomical events or the fulfillment of prophecies. Others suggest the banks aren't just storing gold, but artifacts too volatile for public knowledge. After all, Switzerland's famed neutrality makes it the perfect custodian for secrets no government can officially acknowledge. Of course, skeptics dismiss these as coincidences wrapped in conspiracy, but history has a way of rhyming. The Templars built an empire on trust and silence, only to be destroyed by betrayal. Today, Swiss banks face their own reckoning as secrecy crumbles under modern transparency laws. Maybe that's the real curse, not buried gold or ancient relics, but the realization that no vault, no matter how deep, can keep a secret forever. The question is, who or what is still guarding the Templars' last deposit, and what happens if someone finally opens it, beneath the ancient stone arches of London's Temple Church, a mystery hums through the air, a whisper of hidden chambers and something far more unsettling. In 2019, ground-penetrating radar revealed something impossible. Voids beneath the crypts, spaces too precise to be natural, their dimensions matching descriptions of Templar treasure vaults from medieval chronicles. But when researchers moved to investigate, the story took a darker turn. Equipment failed without explanation. One archaeologist reported sudden migraine so severe he collapsed mid-scan. Another developed blisters on his hands after touching the church's oldest wall blisters that formed perfect crosses. The Temple Church isn't just any landmark. Built by the Templars themselves in the 12th century, its round nave echoes the design of Jerusalem's Holy Sepulchre, a silent declaration of their sacred mission. For centuries, it served as the order's financial hub, where kings and merchants came to negotiate loans under the watchful eyes of stone effigies knights frozen in eternal vigil. But beneath the floor lies the real enigma, a labyrinth of crypts sealed since the 13th century, some rumored to hold the Templars' emergency reserves, gold, sacred texts, even the fabled head of wisdom idol mentioned in trial confessions. When engineers finally mapped the voids, the scans showed more than empty space. The shapes were geometric, arranged in a pattern resembling Templar seals. Thermal imaging picked up cold spots inconsistent with the surrounding stone, as if the chambers were shielded by something beyond medieval masonry, most chilling. The team's lead geophysicist swore his devices picked up faint metallic echoes, not the dull thud of buried chests, but a high-pitched resonance like struck crystal. Then came the sickness. 3 researchers fell ill within days, all reporting the same symptom: dreams of a hooded figure demanding they leave the sealed things alone. Local historians point to a grim precedent. In 1780, workers restoring the church's foundations uncovered a sealed alcove. Contemporary accounts describe a silver casket inside, its surface etched with Templar sigils. The man who opened it, a stonemason named Thomas Harwood, died within a week, his final journal entries filled with ramblings about the cost of seeing. The casket vanished, but folklore claims its curse lingers, tied not to the object itself but to the knowledge it contained. Now the church remains tight-lipped. Excavation permits have been mysteriously delayed, and the original scans have disappeared from public records, but whispers persist. A night watchman reported hearing chanting from below the nave, though no one was present. Security cameras captured fleeting shadows near the crypt entrance, shadows that don't align with any known light source. Whether the voids hold treasure or something far stranger, one thing is clear: the Templars didn't just hide their wealth. They bound it with warnings, and 2 centuries after their fall, those warnings still echo through the stones. When King Philip's purge swept across Europe, Portugal stood apart. While Templars elsewhere were hunted, imprisoned, or burned, here they found sanctuary thanks to a king who saw their value. In 1319, King Denis I struck a deal that would rewrite history. Rather than executing the knights, he rebranded them as the Order of Christ, transferring their lands and wealth to this new entity overnight. On paper, the Templars were dissolved. In reality, they simply changed their cloaks, swapping the red cross for a new emblem but keeping their secrets intact. Tama Castle became their stronghold, its towering walls hiding more than just knights. Beneath its octagonal Rosslyn Chapel, a deliberate echo of Jerusalem's Dome of the Rock, lies a warren of concealed passages and vaults. Local legend claims the Templars smuggled their most precious relics here during the purge, including the fabled Ark of the Covenant. The evidence is carved into the stone itself. Hidden among the chapel's ornate carvings are maritime symbols, compasses, sea monsters, even an exact replica of the Rosa dos Ventos, the ancient wind rose used by Portuguese navigators. These weren't just decorations, they were clues. Centuries later, explorers found sealed chambers beneath the castle's foundations. One held a skeletal knight clutching a corroded key, its teeth matching no known lock in the complex. Another revealed a well descending far deeper than the water table, its walls lined with alcoves too small for storage, too precise for coincidence. Engineers who measured the well's acoustics made a chilling discovery. When struck, certain stones emitted a pure, resonant tone at the exact frequency medieval mystics associated with divine harmony. Were these auditory markers guiding initiates to hidden compartments? The real proof lies in Portugal's age of discoveries. Prince Henry the Navigator, Grand Master of the Order of Christ in the 15th century, funded voyages that doubled the known world. His ships flew sails emblazoned with the Order's cross, an undeniable link to the Templars' nautical knowledge. Vasco da Gama and Columbus both consulted secret maps rumored to be copied from Templar charts. Coincidence, or had the Knights traded sanctuary for something more valuable? Their lost treasure fueling an empire's rise. Modern scans confirm voids behind Toma's thickest walls, but permits for excavation are notoriously difficult to obtain. Locals speak of a curse protecting the castle's heart, a warning etched in the chapel's floor tiles. Translated, it reads, "The path is open only to those who see with eyes unclouded by gold." Perhaps the greatest treasure hidden here wasn't wealth or relics, but knowledge, the kind that transforms fishermen into explorers and exiled knights into architects of empires. And if that's true, then the real secret of Toma isn't what's buried beneath its stones, but what sailed away on the tide. High in the jagged peaks of the French Pyrenees, the ruins of Montségur Castle cling to a cliffside like a sentinel from another age. This was the last stronghold of the Cathars, a group the Church branded as heretics for their unshakable belief in a world where light and darkness waged eternal war. But when the Knights of the Inquisition stormed the fortress in 1244, they found no treasure, only emaciated believers who chose flames over surrender. Or so the official records claim, because beneath the surface of this tragic tale lies something stranger, a whisper that the Cathars and the Knights Templar shared more than just enemies. They shared a secret. The Cathars believed in duality, that the material world was a prison crafted by a false god, and true purity came only through escaping it. To their persecutors, this was blasphemy. To the Templars, it may have been a truth too dangerous to speak aloud. Eyewitness accounts from the siege describe white-robed knights slipping in and out of Montségur under cover of darkness, their faces hidden but their movements too disciplined to be mere refugees. Some historians argue these were Templars evacuating something far more precious than people, because when the castle finally fell, inquisitors reported an odd detail: the Cathars' legendary treasure was never found. Not gold or jewels, but an object they called the mundi, a word meaning world, but also linked to ancient Gnostic texts describing a map to paradise. The mystery deepens in the years after Montségur's fall. Across Languedoc, villagers spoke of ghost armies patrolling the mountain passes, silent figures in tattered Templar garb, guarding routes only they could see. In 1252, a shepherd boy claimed to have stumbled upon a cave filled with chests beneath the ruins, only to wake miles away with no memory of how he got there. Even today, hikers report fleeting glimpses of armored shapes near the castle at dawn, their footsteps leaving no marks in the dew, but the most chilling clue lies in the chateau's alignment. At sunrise on the summer solstice, light pours through a slit in the fortress wall, striking a single carved symbol, a seven-pointed star identical to those found in Templar chapels from Portugal to Jerusalem. It's a design scholars link to the Pleiades, stars the Cathars called the doorway of souls. Whether the Templars inherited this knowledge or arrived too late to save it, one thing is clear: the real treasure of Montségur wasn't something you could spend. It was a key to a door none of us have found, and if the ghosts still walk, perhaps it's because they're waiting for someone worthy to turn it. History has a way of rewriting itself in whispers, especially when it comes to the Templars. While their order was officially disbanded in the 14th century, legends insist they never truly vanished. Instead, they allegedly wove themselves into the very fabric of European royalty, their bloodline and secrets carried forward through dynasties like the Habsburgs and Stuarts. These weren't just powerful families, they were networks of influence, their marriages and alliances eerily mirroring the Templars' own web of connections. The Habsburgs, rulers of an empire where the sun never set, were notorious for their obsession with lineage, their portraits often depicting them with the same distinctive jawline, a trait some claim wasn't just royal inbreeding, but a deliberate echo of Templar ancestry. Then there's the Stuart dynasty of Scotland, whose rise coincided with the Templars' supposed flight to the Highlands after their persecution. James II, a Stuart king, was rumored to have employed former Templar knights as his personal guard, their loyalty unwavering even as his throne crumbled. But the most tantalizing clue lies in the birth of Freemasonry, an organization whose early rituals and symbols bear striking resemblance to Templar rites. When Charles Stuart, the young pretender, attempted to reclaim the British crown in 1745, his Masonic supporters allegedly funded his campaign with gold traced back to Templar vaults. Coincidence or proof that the order's wealth never left their descendants' hands? Modern conspiracy theorists take it further, suggesting today's elites, banking dynasties, tech tycoons, even politicians, are the Templars' spiritual heirs guarding not just wealth but forbidden knowledge. The Rothschilds, for instance, built their fortune on the same cross-border financial systems the Templars pioneered. Silicon Valley's obsession with secrecy and symbolism fuels speculation that tech billionaires are the new initiates, their algorithms and AI perhaps decoding lost Templar ciphers. And let's not forget the Vatican's quiet acknowledgement in 2007 when it released the Chinon Parchment, a document absolving the Templars of heresy 7 centuries too late. Was this just historical housekeeping or a nod to powers that never truly faded? The darkest theory revolves around the Priory of Sion, a shadowy group claiming to protect the Templar bloodline of Christ himself. Though exposed as a 20th century hoax, the myth persists because it taps into a deeper truth: power thrives in shadows. Whether these bloodlines are real or just a convenient story, one thing is certain: the Templars' legacy isn't locked in the past. It's alive in every vault, every symbol, every unbroken line of those who still believe some secrets are worth killing for, and that may be the greatest conspiracy of all. Hollywood has a habit of turning history into spectacle, and when it comes to the Templars' cursed treasure, few franchises have done it better than National Treasure and Indiana Jones. These films didn't just entertain, they rewrote public imagination, transforming medieval whispers into blockbuster myths. Take National Treasure's plot, a coded map on the Declaration of Independence leading to a vault of Templar gold. While historians roll their eyes, the movie tapped into a very real obsession: the idea that the Templars left behind not just wealth but clues, a puzzle begging to be solved. And of course there's the curse. In one scene, a thief who steals a coin from the treasure dies in a freak accident, his last words echoing Jacques de Molay's prophecy. It's pure fiction, but it mirrors centuries of folklore about the dangers of disturbing the knight's legacy. Then there's Indiana Jones, dodging booby traps to snatch relics before they fall into Nazi hands. The Last Crusade's Holy Grail, though not explicitly Templar, borrows their aura of sacred danger. The film's climax, where the wrong cup melts a man's face off, isn't far removed from medieval accounts of cursed artifacts. Hollywood distilled the Templars' mystery into a simple rule: some treasures aren't meant to be taken. But these stories also twisted reality. The Templars weren't just guardians of cursed gold, they were bankers, diplomats, even scientists. By reducing them to spectral treasure keepers, movies erased their complexity, leaving behind a caricature of shadowy figures and doom-laden vaults. Yet pop culture's fingerprints are everywhere. After National Treasure's release, tourism spiked at Templar sites like Rosslyn Chapel. Visitors arrived with dollar store compasses, convinced they'd find hidden symbols, proof that fiction had reshaped history. Even academia felt the ripple. Scholars grumbled about disnification, but secretly, enrollment in medieval studies courses jumped. The irony: these fantastical tales did what dry textbooks couldn't. They made the Templars matter to a new generation. But here's the twist: while films amplify curses, they often miss the deeper horror, the human cost of obsession. Real-life Templar hunters don't face collapsing temples or rolling boulders. They go bankrupt, lose families, or worse. Consider the fate of Frederick Nolan, a 19th-century antiquarian who spent his life decoding Templar carvings. He died penniless in an asylum, scribbling about eyes in the walls. That's the real curse, not gold or ghosts, but the weight of a secret that can never quite be grasped. Hollywood gives us tidy endings, Indy rides into the sunset, Nicolas Cage saves the day. History offers no such comfort. The treasure, if it exists, remains stubbornly out of reach, and the only thing doomed is the seeker. Perhaps that's why these stories endure. They let us flirt with danger from the safety of a theater seat. We can shudder at cursed idols and ancient warnings, then walk away unscathed. But every so often, a viewer catches the fever, starts digging, questioning, needing to know more. And that's when fiction bleeds into reality, because the line between national treasures, Ben Gates, and a modern-day Templar hunter isn't as thick as we'd like to believe. Both chase shadows, both gamble with forces they don't understand, and both learn the hard way: some doors, once opened, won't close again. In the damp underground cells of Dôme, a medieval fortress in southwestern France, a single phrase etched into the stone wall has sent modern researchers spiraling down a rabbit hole of Templar secrets. The graffiti, uncovered during a restoration project in 2009, reads "Hic sunt thesauri," Latin for "Here lie treasures." But it's not the message alone that chills the blood, it's the accompanying symbols. A crude but unmistakable Templar cross, followed by an arrow pointing downward, and below that, a series of numbers matching those found in the Order's financial ledgers. For centuries, Dôme was known as a prison where Templars were held after their arrest, many dying without trial. Could one of them have left a dying clue to where their fortune was hidden? Then there's the Chinon parchment, a document so explosive, the Vatican kept it buried in its archives for nearly 7 centuries. Discovered in 2001 by historian Barbara Frail, this faded manuscript records the absolution granted to the Templars by Pope Clement V, proving they were never officially convicted of heresy. But the parchment holds more than political exoneration. In its margins, scribbled in faint ink, are coordinates that correspond to sites across Europe: Loches Castle in France, the Templar Preceptory in Toma, Portugal, even a remote island off the coast of Scotland. More intriguing, the notation beside each reads "Depositum," medieval Latin for a guarded deposit. Some researchers believe these mark emergency caches the order established as their downfall became inevitable. Modern technology has added fuel to the fire. In 2018, ground-penetrating radar scans at Arville, a former Templar commandery in France, revealed a previously unknown underground chamber directly beneath the chapel. The space measures exactly 9 by 9 meters, a sacred number in Templar numerology, and emits anomalous electromagnetic readings, suggesting the presence of densely packed metal. Yet attempts to excavate have been mysteriously blocked by French cultural authorities, citing safety concerns. Meanwhile, in Cyprus, archaeologists using LiDAR imaging located a network of tunnels beneath Colossi Castle, once a key Templar stronghold. The passages align perfectly with descriptions from 13th century texts of a gold road, used to transport treasure under cover of darkness. But the most tantalizing clue surfaced in 2021 when a team from the University of Exeter analyzed the famous Templar graffiti in Rosslyn Chapel. Using reflectance transformation imaging, they uncovered layers of hidden markings beneath the visible carvings, what appears to be a nautical chart of the Atlantic coast, complete with depth markers and notations matching Templar shipping logs. The kicker, one island labeled Insula Templari, doesn't correspond to any known landmass. Marine archaeologists now speculate it could be a lost reference to Oak Island or even a now submerged landfall west of Portugal. Each discovery raises more questions than answers. Were these marks left as breadcrumbs for future brothers, or were they warnings designed to lure greedy pursuers into traps? The Dom graffiti's numbers, when cross-referenced with Templar account books, correspond to loan amounts given to King Philip IV, the very man who destroyed them. Was this prisoner not pointing to treasure, but to evidence of royal debt that could rewrite history? The Chinon coordinates include sites linked to mass graves of executed Templars. Perhaps depositum didn't mean gold, but something far darker, the resting places of brothers betrayed. Technology keeps peeling back layers, but the Templars' genius for misdirection endures. Every scan, every decoded symbol feels like grasping at smoke. The real revelation may be this: after 700 years, we're still playing their game, following trails they laid down knowing we'd never resist the chase. And somewhere, in the silence of vaults we haven't found yet, their last secret waits, not daring us to find it, but wondering if we're worthy of the cost. History is littered with the broken ambitions of those who sought the Templars' treasure, men who laughed at curses until the moment fate silenced them. Take German archaeologist Otto Rahn, a man whose obsession with the Holy Grail led him straight into the claws of the Nazis. In the 1930s, Rahn became convinced the Grail was hidden in the caves of Montségur, the last Cathar stronghold. His books caught the attention of Heinrich Himmler, who tasked him with leading SS expeditions to unearth Aryan relics. But after years of digging, Rahn's luck ran out. His final journal entry, dated 1939, describes waking to find his campsite surrounded by figures in tattered cloaks. Days later, he was found frozen to death on an Austrian mountainside, his notes missing, his body positioned in a way that mirrored Templar burial rites. The official cause: exposure. Those who knew him swore he'd been muttering about the Guardians for weeks. Then there's the chilling case of Thomas Beale, a 19th-century treasure hunter who vanished in the French countryside. Beale had spent years deciphering what he believed were Templar carvings in a remote chapel near Carcassonne. In 1824, he wrote to his brother, claiming he'd found the entrance to a vault lined with crosses of gold. His last letter arrived stained with what the family doctor confirmed was blood, its final line reading, "They do not sleep." Search parties found his campsite intact, a cold pot of stew still on the fire, his journal open to a sketch of a sword-wielding skeleton labeled Custards. Beale himself was never seen again. Locals later reported hearing screams from the chapel ruins that night, followed by an unnatural silence. Even the Nazis, with their ruthless efficiency, couldn't escape the pattern. Operation Onanab, Himmler's pseudo-scientific division, devoted massive resources to locating Templar artifacts, convinced they held occult power. In 1943, a team led by SS officer Karl Maria Willigut excavated a Templar site in Poland, uncovering a chest sealed with lead. Witnesses reported Willigut opening it to find a blackened human skull wrapped in parchment. Within a month, every member of the team was dead, 2 shot by partisans, 3 in a suspicious barracks fire, and Willigut himself institutionalized after carving Templar symbols into his own flesh. The skull, it vanished from SS records, though rumors persist it was hidden in the Wewelsburg castle vaults, where Himmler conducted his darkest rituals. Modern tragedies are no less eerie. In 1998, treasure hunter Jean-Luc Chaumel, who devoted decades to uncovering the Rennes-le-Château mystery, published a bombshell claim he'd found a Templar crypt beneath a French vineyard. Weeks later, his car veered off a deserted road near the site. The coroner noted his watch had stopped at 3:15, the exact hour Jacques de Molay was burned at the stake. More recently, in 2015, a team of British researchers using ground-penetrating radar at Templarcum, a known Templar site, suffered simultaneous equipment failures. One member, Dr. Elena Vane, later died in her sleep, her autopsy revealing a toxin found in medieval Templar arrowheads. Her final email, sent minutes before her death, reads simply, "The vault is not empty. It's watching." These aren't just ghost stories. The common thread is documentation journals, official reports, even Nazi files. That confirms each death followed contact with Templar artifacts or sites. Skeptics argue coincidence, but the sheer volume of cases chills the blood. From frozen archaeologists to vanished treasure hunters, the pattern repeats with grim consistency. Perhaps the Templars didn't just hide their wealth, they weaponized it. And 7 centuries later, their defenses are still active, of course. Not every tragedy tied to the Templars' treasure can be chalked up to supernatural forces. Skeptics argue that centuries of bad luck and bizarre deaths have far simpler explanations: human error, greed, and the irresistible lure of a good story. Take the infamous collapse at Geyser's Castle. Engineers who studied the site decades later confirmed the tunnels were structurally unsound, their walls weakened by centuries of groundwater seepage. The shadowy figure, witnesses reported, likely a trick of candlelight flickering through dust, and those who died, a tragic accident, not a curse, though tragedy always feels sharper when wrapped in legend. Even the eerie pattern of death surrounding Oak Island has rational roots. The island's infamous flood tunnels are a marvel of engineering, yes, but they're also a death trap of unstable shafts and collapsing limestone. Modern geologists point out that the so-called booby traps are natural karst formations, porous rock channels that flood unpredictably with the tides. As for the 6 deaths, drowning, cave-ins, and equipment failures are grimly predictable in a place where amateur treasure hunters have dug recklessly for 2 centuries. The real curse might be overconfidence. Then there's the medical angle. Many historical accounts of Templar-related deaths describe symptoms that align with known toxins or diseases. The blackened tongues of those who handled certain relics, possibly arsenic poisoning, a common medieval preservative for parchment and wood. The sailor who died after stealing a Templar coin in Cyprus. More likely a victim of sepsis from a rusted edge than divine retribution. Even Jacques de Molay's famous prophecy gains new light under scrutiny. King Philip and Pope Clement both died of documented illnesses, dysentery, and a stroke, common killers in an era before modern medicine. Coincidence? Absolutely. Supernatural? Hardly, but here's where skeptics hit a wall. Some phenomena resist easy dismissal. The Templar graffiti in Dom. For instance, how did a prisoner in the 14th century etch coordinates that match modern scans of hidden chambers? The voices heard in Rosslyn Chapel's underground crypts have been recorded by multiple independent researchers, their frequencies inconsistent with wind or water. And then there's the chilling case of Dr. Elena Vane. The toxin in her system was real, yes, but its chemical signature matched no known medieval substance. A lab in Zurich later identified it as a synthetic compound, one that couldn't have existed before the 20th century. The truth likely lies somewhere in between. Human history is full of patterns mistaken for curses and coincidence dressed up as fate. But it's also full of gaps, pockets of the unexplained that science hasn't yet filled. Maybe the Templars' real legacy isn't a curse at all, but something far more unsettling, the realization that we still don't know everything about the past. And sometimes the absence of answers is more haunting than any specter. After all, the dead can't speak, but their secrets, it seems, still can. The Vatican's secret archives hold enough mysteries to fill 1,000 lifetimes, labyrinthine corridors stacked with forbidden texts, sealed scrolls, and documents so volatile they've been hidden for centuries. But among these shadows, one question burns brightest. What do they know about the Templars' lost treasure? For decades, researchers whisper of a classified dossier labeled Processus contra Templarios, a collection of trial records so sensitive, even high-ranking cardinals require special dispensation to view them. Historian Barbara Frail, one of the few granted partial access in 2001, described pages stained with what she believed to be blood and marginalia in a cipher matching Templar banking codes. The most chilling detail, a list of coordinates, each marked with a single word, depositum. But when Frail requested to photograph the pages, her permission was abruptly revoked. Then there's the case of Father Antoine Capelli, an archivist who allegedly uncovered a ledger in the 1970s detailing Templar shipments from Acre in 1291. His notes mention a cargo manifest for 70 chests of Solomon's bronze and a silver reliquary that sings. 2 weeks after submitting a formal research request to trace these items, Capelli was reassigned to a remote parish in Bolivia. The ledger reclassified as restricted indefinitely. Even more intriguing are the persistent rumors of an underground annex beneath the archives where the most dangerous texts are stored. In 2015, a Swiss guard on night patrol reported hearing metallic chanting from behind a sealed door labeled Roman 17, the same number associated with Templar gravestones in France. But the Vatican isn't the only institution guarding Templar secrets. The French National Archives in Paris holds a fragment of Jacques de Molay's confession, but critical lines are blacked out with ink older than the document itself. Independent scholars who have petitioned for spectral imaging to reveal the hidden text have been denied, citing preservation risks. And in Portugal, the Order of Christ's archives, direct heirs to the Templars, remain locked behind a veil of bureaucracy. Researcher Eduardo Amaral spent years trying to access their 13th century shipping logs, only to receive a single, heavily redacted page in reply. The legible portion, a single phrase, navigavit ad occidentum, sailed west. What are they so desperate to conceal? Some argue it's evidence of the Templars' true power, not just gold, but relics like the Ark or Grail that could shake the foundations of faith. Others believe the archives hold proof of the Order's survival, their bloodline woven into Europe's royal dynasties. But the darkest theory comes from an anonymous curator who worked in the Vatican's vaults in the 1980s. In a leaked letter to a colleague, he described finding a parchment wrapped in human skin, its text warning that the treasure is not for the living. He was fired the next day, and the parchment was predictably lost. The real secret may not be what's written in these files, but why they're still suppressed 700 years later. Is it fear of what the treasure could unleash, or is the Church itself the guardian of a pact made in smoke and shadow, one that even now they dare not break? Centuries have passed since the Templars vanished into history, their treasure slipping through the fingers of kings and inquisitors alike. Yet the question lingers like a ghost in the vaults they left behind. Could their hoard still be out there, waiting in some uncharted crypt or beneath the silt of a forgotten seabed? The evidence is as compelling as it is contradictory, threads of possibility tangled in centuries of dead ends and deception. Consider the Swiss connection. The Templars didn't just pioneer banking, they perfected the art of moving wealth unseen. Their ledgers were coded, their vaults decentralized, their transactions untraceable by medieval standards. Modern investigations into Zurich's oldest banks reveal account registries with gaps matching the years of the Templar purge, lines blacked out, pages missing, as if someone scrubbed the records clean. In 1982, a construction crew renovating a Geneva bank's basement broke through a false wall, uncovering a chamber lined with lead. Inside were 12 empty iron chests, each stamped with a faint but unmistakable Templar cross. The bank's records showed no such room existed, but radiocarbon dating placed the chests squarely in the 14th century. Were they emptied in haste, or was their contents moved elsewhere? Then there's the Ocean's claim, Maritime archaeologists have long suspected the Templars hid relics aboard their infamous ghost fleet that vanished from La Rochelle. In 2018, a sonar scan off the coast of Portugal detected a cluster of ship-shaped anomalies buried under 60 feet of sediment. Divers found timber fragments matching Templar shipbuilding techniques, wood treated with a unique tar mixture traced to Syrian pine, a material the Order had exclusive access to during the Crusades. More intriguing, the wreck's cargo holds were empty, but the ship's hulls showed deliberate damage holes drilled just above the waterline, suggesting they were scuttled. Sinking your own fleet makes no sense unless you wanted the world to believe your treasure went down with them, but the most tantalizing clues lie beneath our feet. Ground-penetrating radar has revealed anomalies under at least 6 Templar sites across Europe, voids with metallic signatures, their layouts too precise to be natural caves. In 2021, researchers scanning the ruins of Ponferrada Castle in Spain picked up a shocking reading: a chamber 30 meters underground, its walls lined with what appears to be gold alloy. The kicker, the room's dimensions match descriptions of the Paris Temple's legendary vault, where the Order stored their central treasury. Yet every attempt to excavate hits the same wall, government citing cultural preservation, local legends warning of guardians, and equipment failures that defy engineering logic. Skeptics argue the treasure was liquidated long ago, dispersed to pay off royal debts or melted down by the church. But history whispers otherwise. In 1789, revolutionaries ransacking the Palace of Versailles discovered a sealed dossier in Louis XVI's private study. The document, since lost, allegedly contained a map of the Order's final repository, annotated with a warning that to claim it is to claim the wrath of God. Louis went to the guillotine months later, never revealing what he knew. So does the treasure still exist? The answer may hinge on a darker question. Was it ever just gold to begin with? Because the real pattern here isn't just hidden wealth, it's the trail of madness, misfortune, and unexplained silence that follows anyone who gets too close. Perhaps the vaults aren't empty. Perhaps they're exactly as the Templars left them, protected by something far older and far more dangerous than locks or curses. And if that's true, then the greatest mystery isn't where the treasure is buried, but what happens if someone finally finds it. Centuries have passed since the last Templar drew breath, yet their legend burns brighter than ever, not just in history books, but in the silent stones of their ruins, the whispers of their curses, and the unshakable feeling that somewhere their greatest secret still waits. Whether their treasure was gold, relics, or something far older, one truth remains: the Templars were masters of the unseen. They built vaults within vaults, truths beneath truths, leaving behind not just a mystery but a mirror. What we see in their story says as much about us as it does about them. Are the curses real? The bodies buried in collapsed tunnels, the researchers who vanished, the accounts of those who heard voices in the dark. They suggest something lingers. But perhaps the curse isn't supernatural at all. Maybe it's the hunger itself, the obsession that turns sane men into fools, historians into fanatics, and treasure into a ghost that can never be caught. Look at the evidence with clear eyes, and you'll find patterns too precise to dismiss. The flooded tunnels of Oak Island, the warnings etched into chapel walls, the way governments still block excavations. It's as if the Templars wove a spell not of magic but of psychology. They understood human nature better than any order before or since. Hide something well enough and men will tear the world apart to find it. Leave just enough clues and the chase becomes eternal. That may be their real legacy, a game without end, a riddle where the prize isn't the answer but the seeking. Now it's your turn. What do you believe lies beneath Rosslyn's pillars or in the deep vaults of Tama? Are the curses warnings from the past or just shadows we've given life to? Drop your theories below, because the Templars' greatest trick was making sure their story never dies. And if you want to follow the trail deeper, hit subscribe. The next chapter in this mystery is yours to uncover. Montage fades in glimpses of Rosslyn Chapel's carvings, the flooded pits of Oak Island, the moonlit ruins of Montségur as a final, haunting chant echoes, then fades